Hey everyone, welcome back to Financial Freedom by 40. My name's Kelly, and today I'm answering your questions. So, a question we get a lot, and it's a good one, is how did we build a multi-million dollar property portfolio starting from nothing? Um, so, I want to start this with a bit of background because I think it's really important. You see a lot of people online who seem to be making a lot of money, and it's really hard to tell what their starting point was. Like if you came to it with a huge inheritance or somehow or other started with a really big amount of money, it sort of skews your results a little bit. So we decided to start sharing our journey online. We're generally very private people, but we started to get people asking us how we did it because we started with nothing. So when Ryan and I met, we were teenagers, we were in high school. Neither of us come from wealthy families. So really, I mean, when I say nothing, the only thing we owned between us was the car that I had saved up for and bought when I was at high school. So I had a $1,500 old Corolla and with a couple of 100,000 Ks on the clock. And that was really it. So we had to just there's not really a secret. Like there's not really a magical, wonderful secret to, I wish there was, to how we became property millionaires. It was a lot of hard work. Um, you know, People try and find what's the magical thing you did? Did you win the lottery? Did what did you do? There are some things we were quite intentional about though. So I will talk to you about those because I think a lot of those things were really key to our success. So we met in 2002. We were both in our last year of school. Because we'd both come from families where there wasn't a lot of money, it was really important to both of us to have a good financial future. For me, at least, money had always been a challenge in my whole childhood. And I decided quite early on when I was a teenager, that wasn't going to be a factor in my life moving forward. I wanted to have a job where I earned really good money. So I was very intentional in the career that I chose because I knew that career was going to enable me to have a good income. I went to law school. I became a lawyer. I knew that I would have a good salary from that. Ryan also pursued a career in engineering. Again, that gave him the ability to earn a really good salary. So I'm not going to sort of lie about that. That is what it is. We did have good salaries. That has definitely helped the journey. But we didn't start with those salaries. When I was at high school, I was told you're not smart enough to be a lawyer. Pursue something that's more realistic for you. So I decided that wasn't going to be my future. I was going to do law and I was going to get a career where I could earn really, really good money. So I put all my effort in. I sat in the library at lunchtime at school. I worked really hard to achieve law school, to achieve the entrance into law school. And actually, I didn't even get into the law school I wanted to go to. I had to go to a second choice because I didn't get good enough grades to get to the first choice. So I moved towns so that I could go to law school. So yeah, it wasn't easy. So Ryan and I started going out when we were 17. I moved out of town for a few years so I could get my degree. When I got my degree, we moved in together and we started saving for our first house deposit. I would say that on top of that, we were really careful also with money, both of us, throughout our studies. So for me, I did not want to mount up a huge amount of student debt. So I worked every single holidays right through every day if I could. I did as many hours as I could every single holidays so that I could earn as much money as possible while I was at uni and keep my student debt down. I didn't want to come out with a big student debt. Ryan also worked really hard to keep his student debt down, only borrowing as much as he needed to for the fees. And by the time I'd finished uni, he'd paid his off, and I came out with a loan of around about 20 something thousand dollars, which is pretty low, really. I only borrowed fees. I worked to pay for all my books and that kind of thing. So that starting point when we went into buying a house with having virtually no debt, that was really helpful. We also had no consumer debt, so we didn't have any hire purchase or that kind of thing. We didn't when we went to buy our first house, when we were saving for our first house, we didn't have a car under finance, those kind of things. Like we we were very, very intentional about not having debt. So the other thing too, which I wanted to cover off, was that we were very focused on income. So when we decided we wanted to buy a house, we did everything we could do to build bring in as much money as possible. So we both worked extra hours if we could. So I got my job as a lawyer, was also working in the weekends doing waitressing. Ryan worked in his day job and then sometimes did sort of odd jobs in the weekends, or he came and helped at the job I was doing catering work. We did anything we could to bring in extra money to save that deposit for that first house. So again, not easy. We also rented some really crappy places. So we did what we could to keep our rent down. We didn't live in a fancy apartment. We didn't travel really much at all unless it could be done camping and keeping the costs really, really low. We didn't really spend a lot of money on entertainment, going to concerts and those kind of things. Like, it might sound a bit boring, but we pretty much put all our money into saving for that first house deposit. And then after we bought our first house, we put all of our efforts into, partly renovating it so that we could, revalue, get the value of the house up, make it more livable as well. I suppose going back a step, we bought a house that wasn't perfect. It had mushrooms growing in the bathroom. So it needed work. So we didn't buy a real fancy house. We bought a house that was a doer-upper. We spent a lot of our time doing that house up to make it worth more, add value to the house. And again, we kept our mortgages lower than we could have borrowed more money, but we kept our mortgage, relatively comfortable for us. We also bought when interest rates were really, really high. So when we did our numbers to buy our house, the interest rates were 9.1. Well, we had the loan split in two, one on 9.1 and one on 9.3. And what we did is, when those rates actually dropped a few years later, we kept the repayments the same so that we paid down our mortgage. We had hoped to have our house paid off by the time we had children. So by keeping those repayments the same, the interest rates dropped significantly. And so we were paying big amounts off the principal of our house. That set us up really well for later on down the track when we went to get lending for rental properties, because for one thing, we didn't have a lot of lending still on our house. It meant that we had quite a lot of equity available in the house, so that we were able to sort of do that, setting up of a deposit fund. So we were able to get a revolving credit against the equity in our house to use as a deposit and renovation fund for rentals. Now, when it came to actually buying rentals, Ryan was much more keen to do this than I was. I wasn't really keen at all. I had seen I'd seen family, friends go through the process of, buying, renovating rental houses, and it hadn't gone well for them. And I had a fear that it could put us backwards. By the time Ryan wanted to start buying rental properties, we were starting to get some disposable income for the first time in a long time. So we'd really worked so hard. We hadn't had much disposable income. We were starting to get a bit of headway and make a little bit more money. And I didn't want to lose that disposable income by, buying a rental and putting all the money into a rental. We started looking at rentals, and ultimately what we realized was that we were going to, the houses that we were looking at would have required us to have put some of our personal income into that, and I wasn't keen on that. So we decided we had to educate ourselves. So we went out, we read books, we went to lots of the free property seminars that you see advertised, and then in the end we actually signed up for a paid coaching program, because we started to realize pretty quickly we knew nothing really about rental properties and that we could make a lot of mistakes. And so we felt that it was worthwhile investing in a program that would help us to grow our knowledge and also have some coaching support to be able to have someone who'd already been where we wanted to go, to be able to get advice, ask questions. So we If you're wondering what course we did the Property Apprentice course. They're fabulous. If you want to get in touch with them, I think it's just propertyapprentice.co.nz. Feel free to mention that we sent you their way, but they're wonderful. They had a fabulous course. We still do check in with our coaches there from time to time. We did the program over 10 years ago, 12 years probably ago, and yeah, we still get support from them. So it is well worth the investment. So yeah, definitely if you are looking at getting into property, it's worth doing something like that to get the education to know what you're doing. So that was one of the steps that we did that's really helped us build this portfolio. One of the other things that helped us a lot was that we had a fabulous mortgage broker who helped us with structuring everything. So unfortunately, that person's no longer working in the industry, so I can't give you their, refer you to them. We're now working with a new mortgage broker, but having someone who knows the industry, particularly, works with people who are property investors and knows how to help them out and help someone who's trying to build a larger portfolio, that was really, really helpful. That property manager we had at the start was just unbelievably knowledgeable in this area, and so that made a big difference to us. And then really, I would say that from there, it's really just been a matter of hard work and consistency. So the other videos that I have put up on here, they sort of talk you through all the specific things that we've done, but it's really just been a matter of just keeping on repeating the same things over and over, working really hard to keep the debt down, like not to borrow too much money if we can avoid it. Trying to work really hard at finding deals that work for us. You can check the other videos to see where I talk a bit more about that. And also, and to enable us to grow a portfolio, I've talked about this in other videos too, just trying to keep the cash flow of the overall portfolio up so that you can keep getting lending. That's been something that has caught us out a few times or sort of slowed us down a bit, is the not having sufficient cash flow between our personal incomes and the portfolio income. So that's something that, has been good and bad, I suppose, sort of balancing those things. And then, for future growth, we've tried to focus on paying down debt. So we were at the moment, we need to get our cash flow up. And one way we can do that is to pay down pay more than we have to on our mortgage repayment. So pay principal and interest. So that's something we're doing at the moment. Again, that's not for everyone, not saying that will work for you. If that's the right thing to do, you should get advice from a mortgage broker about what's the best thing to do for you. But, wherever we can pay down debt, we do, to try and boost the overall cash flow of the portfolio in the longer term. And ultimately, that will hopefully enable us to continue to grow so that we can still get lending in the future. So that has been what helped us to set up a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. Sorry, there's nothing really too exciting other than sort of sticking at it, a lot of hard work, and just sort of staying really focused on the goal, I think, has been really the main thing, is that building that portfolio. And as time's gone on, we've moved to the goal of financial freedom. So now that's really where the focus lies, is that getting everything to work really well for us to get to financial freedom. But hopefully that provides you with just a bit of information about how we got started. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment, and I will do my best to do another video answering your questions. I hope to talk to you again soon. Oh, and remember, hit the subscribe button so that you get the notifications.